Hi, crafty friend. It's Justine Dvorak from Stationery by Justine, where when I craft, my world stands still. Look how cute this bowl is. My husband actually painted it once upon a time. I'm going to use this bowl to line up what I'd like to make a baseball, basically. And I'm going to make my first stitching die that I've ever made myself, a DIY stitch, if you will. I just took a pencil and traced over a piece of folded white cardstock, and this just gives me a rounded edge. I did not have a circle die big enough in my craft room, so the kindergarten teacher and me decided to flip over a bowl and make a circle that way. It's one of those little tips that I do in my kindergarten classroom with tracing different shapes and getting the shape that you might need without a die cutting machine, because there's no die cutting machine in kindergarten, but we do have scissors and round things. Lids work really well for that too. Oh, this little cutie pie, she is going to be fun to color. I'm going to show you here me making this stitching die, the DIY of it all, and then also coloring up the little baseball characters and the assembly. So I just figured let's dive in right away with the stitching. That was what I was most excited about. Just move the bowl down a little bit, and this is going to be my stitch line for my baseball. Now let's get real close. I know my pencil was teeny tiny. It was 0.5 lead, so the dots are very faint and hard to see, but I'm just making little dots going across the line, and this will be where I'm going to be stitching all the way down. And then that will be a baseball. At least I hope it will look like a baseball. So I'm going to open it up and get I'm going to use a piece of foam. Now, Spellbinders does have a foam pad, and I think not Hero Arts, Waffle Flower also has a foam pad. But for whatever reason, I could not find mine when I was making this video, but I did have foam in my craft room. So I grabbed a piece of glitter foam, and we're going to be making holes for my needle to go through. I'm simply taking my needle and puncturing holes right over where I had my pencil line, so you can definitely see the holes a little bit better now. If I were to do this again, I would probably use a thumbtack just because it is easier, but the needle was fine. Then I'm also making a puncture in between, right on the pencil line, but right in between my two stitches. So we're going to get nice and close in a little bit so you can see. I'll just faintly erase that pencil line that I made before. Now it's ready for stitching. I do not have the holes big enough right now for stitching per se, but the needle will guide it through as I go. So for stitching, I like to use DMC thread. I'm using this red thread, and DMC, or really most embroidery threads, have 6 strands. So I unravel it. Words today are just not my thing. And I split it into 2. So there is 3 on one side and 3 on the other side. I have a whole playlist of stitching cards on my channel and how-tos and tutorials. So if stitching is your thing, make sure that you check that out. I will have that linked below. Now for stitching, I like to start by just adding a little piece of tape, and I like to go from the back to the front typically, but with these holes not being big enough for my needle yet, I find it to be a cleaner hole if I go from the front down. So my first couple stitches here are going to look a little bit messier because the needle pushes through the hole and it makes the paper go up, and it looks neater when the needle is going from the front down. Now I'm going to continue this all the way up my card. So I'll do a few stitches here, and then I will show you how I'm going to finish off this card. Now you might have noticed the little cute baseball gal and maybe the glove and the ball. This card is going to be very involved and I'm going to show another cute little I don't know if I would really even call it a card, but another project at the end with that orange and blue paper that's on the top right there. This is definitely starting to look like a baseball, and I am really enjoying how this is looking. Now for all the holes, like I said, I'm going to be coming down with the needle, so I need to puncture some more holes here. So I'll just go through. Again, that just makes a clean line. I don't have a bulletin board at home anymore, so I don't know if I really even have a push pin at home, but I have tons in my classroom. Anyway, if you have questions on stitching, feel free to ask in the comments. And if you have ever made your own stitching project like I have with this baseball, let me know in the comments. I would love to know. I adore stitching, and I think it's fun to just play around in your craft room. That's what I was doing when I made this card. I was completely inspired by the stamps, and the stamps I'm using are from Pajama Crafter Stamps. And the baseball stamp set was making me excited about stitching, and I thought, hey, baseballs have stitching on them. Let's make a baseball. So I'm going to go ahead and keep filming or keep stitching, but I will stop filming. I'm just going to do the exact same thing up the side of this ball here, but just for the sake of time, we're going to skip ahead. Now that it's all finished, I'll show you how I finish stitching projects. You can backstitch like this, which is basically just fishing the thread through previous stitches and catching it on the old ones and snip it, or you can use tape. I'm going to be putting a little cover over that so the recipient of this card will not see any of the inside stitches, but man, that looks super cute and looks just like a baseball. At least I think so. All right. So my gal is going to be playing baseball outside, and I would like it to be kind of an exciting card. I'm using the Whoa die, and that is from Pajama Crafter Stamps as well. And then I'm going to stamp directly onto the stitching project, which is kind of taking a big risk because this could go really well, or I could mess it up and wreck my stitching. But don't worry, it turns out okay. But if I were to do this again, I would definitely stamp first and stitch second, just in case. Now, I want this to be kind of a muted sentiment, but still kind of coordinate. And my little baseball gal, she's wearing blue, and blue and orange are complementary colors. So we're going to stick with blue. I'm going to grab Clear Skies from Simon Hurley. This is just some dye ink, a very brilliant blue. I'm using my big Misty because for whatever reason, I can't find my mini Misty in my craft room. I even cleaned my craft room this weekend and I cannot find it. So it's got to be around here somewhere, unless it ended up in one of the mystery boxes I sold, which would be tragic for me because I would have to rebuy my Misty. But, you know, the big mama Misty, she can do the job too. And then I'm using a little press tool that I have custom made from my husband. Thanks, honey. Alrighty, that turned out super cute. And next we're going to just assemble this card. And I should say just, but I played around with the placement of it all. I wasn't sure if I wanted this to be a 5x7 card that opened, but I'm going to end up using this baseball in a cool way, as if it isn't cool already that it's stitched, but it's going to be extra special. These Whoa dies, they come with Whoa, Yikes, and Dang. And I find them to be super fun. I love using a dark background with a white lettering. It just really pops. I think that if I were to remake this card, I would probably use a dark blue background instead of the black, just so it kind of coordinates with the overall look of the card. But in general, I think this one is just so darling. I am sticking with my New Year's resolution of using items from my stash and making it work. So I have this scrap of blue cardstock from my next project that I'm going to show you, but it's out of order a little. Anyway, this is going to be my sky or my background for my gal who's playing baseball. Now with pattern paper and piecing it together, you have to be kind of intentional. So I'm just going to line up the stars, and it turns out I don't even have to snip anything or glue it. It just has to be right there. The baseball is going to cover most of it up. And the little gap that I'm going to end up having will end up being covered up as well. But my card will go right there. And now I have this grass. This grass was die cut out, and that was from one of the Spellbinders sets. And I snipped it right there, and I should not have snipped it because it was still too small. So I'm going to end up putting grass back on there in just a few minutes. I didn't want the recipient to see my tape, so I'm going to make a little cover plate for my baseball. Really simple, just cutting it out and gluing it over top of the baseball, just like that. Now when they open it, you can see it's clean on the inside. So I want my card to open up directly onto this card front. So the baseball is going to be the inside of the card. I'm going to add a little bit of grass here on the end, and this will just continue the scene moving forward. Any of the little sky that I'm missing there, I'm going to cover up in a special way. So again, just hang on and I'll show you. But I did want a blue border around this project just so it looked cohesive. There it is. I'm going to cover it up with a little mitt. Also, I think that that little baseball mitt being right there will kind of tell the recipient that, hey, you can open this. I do think the whole baseball will just pop open by itself because of the stitching and such, but it's just extra fun. So I'll just stick that right on there. And then we will pop over to assembly. I have foam for my whoa. That's going to be popped up. I love popping up a sentiment, especially these big ones, just because they just pack such a punch when they are already very bold, but popped up is always fun for sentiments. So I'll stick that right on top of my stitching. No biggie. And my gal. Now, she is not big-footed, but she definitely has feet and she's outside. So we're just there's going to be a shadow is basically what I'm saying here. So I grabbed a green Copic. I think I used YG03. And as that dries, it ends up being too light, but whatever. I'll go back in with a darker Copic in just a minute. And we're also going to pop up the gal. Maybe we'll call her Sally Mae. Sally Mae playing baseball. Next on this project, after I add Sally on, I'm going to add a little something to the top area. I think it's just looking a little too bare. So I grabbed the stamp set and, well, I had these already stamped, but I grabbed these from the stamp set. They're banners, and I did fussy cut them out directly to the black line. And I'm just going to do a quick little coloring with just a wee bit of shading with a dark color on the bottom and the sides, and then a lighter color of blue right into the center of the top, and then also on the top of the banners going down. And this will just create a little bit of a shadow. That will be for my banner. And I'll do that 3 different times. 1, 2, 3. Done. I'm also going to add a little bit of a shadow on the You Can Do Amazing Things stamp set or stamp, just so it has a little bit of a shadow and it's a little more interesting. Also to tie in more blue because the baseball is very large and I didn't want it to be lost in the sauce, if you will. Then I'm going to take a white gel pen and just add little highlights. Now that I'm done finishing up the final little details, let's take a look back into the future and look at the coloring of my little characters here. This will be a very sped up coloring. I am not a Copic color expert at all, but I figured I would share some of the colors that I used. Very simple coloring for my little people here. I went with blonde because I'm blonde and I used to play softball back in the day. So I was kind of thinking that this would be kind of cute to make her blonde. with blue eyes like me. And this little guy, he's just such a ham. I love him. He's so cute. He's got a big glove and a big baseball, and I'm going to use this little character on another project. Now at the end of this video, I'll show you. I left it open for interpretation because I wasn't sure if I was going to turn it into a card or turn it into some kind of a gift card holder or pop it on a gift bag, which is what I'm kind of leaning toward. The gift bag, that is, because I think it will be super cute to dress up a gift bag. Let me know in the comments if you have ever done that with any of your paper crafting before. I have done it, I think, maybe 5 times, if I remember correctly. So not a ton, but some. It's way more fun to make your own bags than buy them. I typically buy plain gift bags, and I can either dress them up or just put a different colored tissue paper in there. But that's what I like to do. The eyes always intimidate me when I'm Copic coloring. So I like on this stamp set, I can add the color, but it's not so overwhelming, and there's still white area on the character's eyes. I think that is way easier to Copic color, personally. I guess I made my gal to have brown eyes, so maybe I wasn't thinking. I'm going to have her uniform match her hat and her shoes, just so it's all tying together. But you know that because you've noticed my final project already. But yeah, there you have it. My coloring for my little people. Then I went ahead with my spring-loaded scissors and fussy cut it all out, just because it seems to be a little easier to pull out my scissors for small projects like this than to pull out my scan and cut, although I do love using my scan and cut quite a bit. Now for this little gift bag project, we're going to call it a gift bag project because now I have decided that's what I'm going to do with it. I have used a layering die from my stash and used that pattern paper from before, and I went orange, blue, blue, orange, just so it's kind of a nice tie in with his uniform. And I'm going to use foam to pop up certain things like the baseball, the man, the boy, he's not really a man, the baseball boy, and then the sentiment as well. For the sentiment, I used embossing powder and popped up the sentiment as well. So let me know what you think about this project or the stitched baseball card in the comments, and we will see you in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe, and if you want any of the items that I'm showing on the screen, I do have affiliate links down below, and it does help if you use them. So thank you in advance if you do. Again, thanks for watching. Bye, crafty friend.